But now, you may recall our next guest, as she's no stranger to mums at the table and brings a wealth of knowledge, facts and thought-provoking insight and advice. As a best-selling author of Teen Sex by the Book, she's a therapist, sexologist and supermum. Dr. Patricia Weerakoon, welcome to Mums at the Table.
Great to be with you.
It's good to have you back, actually. The thing I wanted to ask you was, in a sex-driven society, we're inundated with sex. How come in Christian circles it feels like it's taboo to talk about it? I actually feel prudish talking about it now.
Well, you know, the point is it's actually not taboo. It's just that for too long we've allowed the world to take over and kind of treat it like God is this cosmic killjoy who only words are just don't do it. While actually the Bible has the best word on sex. Its book ended with marriage, Genesis and Revelation, Jesus coming back for his bride. And right in the middle is 8 chapters of erotic lovemaking between husband and wife, the Song of Songs. I mean, what could be more sexy than that? We have the best message ever in sex. Let's get it out there, which is what you're doing.
Yes, that's why we've got you here, to bring it out, to get it out. How early should we be talking to kids about sex? Because I know these days it seems like our kids are more informed from a younger age.
Well, more informed or more exposed?
More exposed.
It's a very interesting question you ask, because the point is, when you say how early should we start, it's never too early. Because as you said, we live in this sexualized society, and today our primary schoolers are being exposed to sexual issues. I mean, they're seeing porn at an increasingly lower age. So it's never too early. Firstly, always use the right words when talking about genitals. Even when kids are 1 and 2 years old. Look, boys are born with penis and scrotum, and girls have vagina and vulva. Use the right words, not cutesy words. And that can be done really early.
So what's wrong with using the cutesy words? Because some mothers do it. So what's wrong with it?
It's not that it's wrong, but when you use the correct words, you give your kids a language. And this is really important, especially today, for at least 2 reasons. One is that when they get into primary school, however careful you are, they may be exposed to pornography. And if they are exposed to something, they have a language to come and tell you what they saw. And the other sad thing is that there could be some aspect of, you know, some kind of abusive or grooming behavior. And again, your kids have a language to come and talk to you about it. At least for those 2 reasons, please give your kids the right words.
I guess as mums, we're really worried that they won't talk to us and they'll go somewhere else to find their information. If they see something that makes them uncomfortable, sometimes they're the last, we're the last people they'll feel. How can we stop doing that? How can we encourage our children to come and speak to us?
See, the earlier you start opening the conversation, all the research shows, the myth, if I talk to my kids early, they're going to run out and experiment. Wrong. All the research shows that's not so. If I don't talk to them, then they're somehow going to stay innocent and they will come to me when they have problems. Wrong. If you don't open the conversation, they won't come to you. They'll go to Dr. Google or to one of their friends or to pornography. If you start the conversation early, you are that trustworthy person.
Okay, so let's get practical. How would you start that conversation? Because you've talked about using the right words, and that's a really good start, but then you get to kids who are older. How would you actually talk about it in that next phase?
Okay, the next phase is that we say that when your kids get to primary school, you need to have had the talk. This is why we actually wrote a book called Birds and Bees by the Book. We recommend it for primary school, parents, grandparents to read with children. And this is an opening. It's like a picture book which talks about, genitals, families, what's happening in the brain, and also about gender and pornography and sexuality. It's so important that we do all this discussion. Do it early when they get to primary school. Use resources, but you are the resource. Husband, wife, share. That show your children what good relationship is.
It's really interesting that you talk about conversation, because I know for me, one of the hardest conversations to have is the sex conversation with your husband. So how can we do that? Because sex and money are one of the hardest things to talk about in a marriage. So how can we do that in a non-threatening environment?
You see, communication is probably the most intimate thing in a marriage. You need to talk. It seems so stupid to say that, but actually it's very important that couples remember that. Intimacy is important. And when we talk about a couple and intimacy, communication is important, far more important than actually jumping into bed and having sex.
Well, what? Say that again, slowly.
Communication is more important than actually having sex. But the point is, how do you actually get to, as a couple, talking? And the important thing is to remember that when you want this kind of really serious conversation, rather than tell your husband, you know, you did this or you haven't done this, it's to say, I feel upset. I'm feeling sad about this. When you take on that I feel, then your spouse, being a male with a Y chromosome, wants to fix it. And therefore, you're actually giving him a role as carer, which is the biblical role of the husband caring for you.
Yeah. After you've had children, sometimes the last thing you feel like is developing that sex life again. And how do you keep that zing in your marriage? How do you, you know, like you just want to sleep. You know,
You want to catch up on sleep.
Yeah. Again, it's important to remember that when we think sex, we tend to think intercourse. Wrong. We think intimacy. Intimacy goes everything from spiritual intimacy. If you're reading the Bible and praying with your spouse, that is intimacy. Through to actually talking, through to cuddles at the kitchen sink, good place to cuddle, and kisses, and then finally to intercourse. You see, we need to remember that. And so after getting married, after having babies, you can concentrate on the kisses and the cuddles and just allowing your husband the space to help you with the baby. That's sexy in itself.
Yes, it is.
I need to understand it.
Yeah, I don't think I ever loved my husband more when I saw him grow into a wonderful father. And I think that bonds you in a really special way that you don't have before that.
I have to agree. Like, I know with my own partner, once I had the twins, the amount of help that he had to do for me in recovery, the love did grow and it was deeper. But I think also with marriages, according to research, there's like 60% of marriages break down because of infidelity. Are we just too quick to jump ship? Like, we have commitment issues these days. Like, what's going wrong? What's going on with our marriages here?
It's actually a huge topic, but I'll kind of give you the quickie version. One is we live in a society that says live by your desires. So it's my selfish self-gratification.
If you want it, it's fine.
That's right. If you no longer please me, I need to go where I get my desires and my pleasures. So as you said, we are too easily break out of commitment. But as Christians, we are in a covenant committed relationship. And so we need to recognize that even when that sort of initial dopey feelings of falling in love are gone, you need to work on a relationship. And that loving is an action.
It's a choice.
It's the other focused choice of loving. And that's what a committed covenant relationship. Why is it called naked and no shame? Nakedness, yeah, you take your clothes off, but it's being naked at a brain level, at an emotional level. And no shame is that total trust.
And being vulnerable.
And being vulnerable in a place of trust. And that is what Christian marriage is.
I love before that you were saying, you were talking about all those levels of intimacy, I guess those levels of sex, whereas we seem to be living in a world and a culture that just has only captured one portion of that, and we forget that there's so much more that needs to be addressed and worked on. And we need to sort of show that to our kids as well.
You said something earlier too that I resonated with me, something about how we have to focus on the other person. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, because the best sex is when two people are together and really each one is saying to the other, asking the other, how can I make this the best for you? And if two people are actually looking and asking, how can I make this the best for you? Look, both are going to have the best time ever. And that's about other focused rather than looking at this self-focused, self-gratification.
Yeah. How can we model good parenting behaviour for our children so as they grow up, they'll have a healthy sex life?
Well, the best thing is for them to see you as husband and wife, being close and loving, not necessarily having sex, because that too doesn't matter. It's a teachable moment, but
That'd be
maybe not at that moment. Maybe not at that moment, but let them see you loving each other. That intimacy is important. More sex is caught rather than taught, and we need to remember that.
Yeah.
And I think also, as couples, having that intimacy, what tips do you have in order for us to continue having that intimacy, sexual intimacy, when we've been in a marriage for a long time?
Yeah, when you've been in marriage for a long time, it kind of can get very ho-hum. So what I say is, think back to the times when you felt that zing, and kind of make a list of it. So it doesn't even need to be something very expensive or long time kind of thing, but just think of some fun things and do them again, and it brings back that dopamine-driven excitement that you felt.
Love
so bring
that.
back the zing.
Thanks so much, Dr. Patricia. You're a wealth of wisdom. Thank you for hanging out with us, ladies. Thank you for the chat. God bless you all.
bless everyone.
And you at home, thanks for hanging out. Don't forget, you can hit us up on our socials. We'd love to hear from you. Be sure to share, like and subscribe if you're watching online, because there's always more room for you at the table. Until next time, God bless.